Hi everyone, this is Franky Ho from Red Hat. I'm the Strategic Business Development Director responsible for emerging solution here. Today I'm going to share with you a topic talking about highly related to HPC, HPDA, or we call the high performance data analytics, combining with AI and also for the HPC. So I think the key message here I would like to deliver is that Red Hat is not just a so-called commercial offering solution provider for you to choose, because we understand that most of the customers, they are now using open source community tools to build their own solutions there. Here, I would like to share with you regarding how Red Hat and our partners combine to become the ecosystem we can help to ease your burden. Next page. According to the research from Hyper Research, when we try to compare the market before year 2000 and after year 2000, you can see year 2000, of course, is most likely like the traditional legacy HPC. No matter the market size, no matter the use case, no matter the ones they doing the HPC setup, okay, they're very different when comparing to the year 2000. Before year 2000, we can see the governments, the research lab, and also for the government agency, they are dominant for the whole market. And in terms of the number of looks, it's relatively smaller. And also in terms of the technology, most likely they're using the monolithic, proprietary, or even their own software stack. But after year 2000, you can see, okay, the market-driven force is very different. Enterprise become a very, large portion, because they would like to include, I just mentioned, for example, like the HPDA, the AI use case, riding on the HPC, the environment or the cluster. And also the technology has quite a lot of change talking about they're using the off-the-shelf technology, no matter from hardware or software stack. And in terms of number of nodes, and in terms of the performance, quite a lot of changes. Next page. So also according to the Hyperion research, talking about the use case for the HPDA, you can see like, for example, the fraud detection, anomaly detection, BI, and also affinity marketing. So according to the respondent, 36%, they would like to run their data analytics in their own data center, riding on the HPC architecture. So that's the reason why we usually talk about HPC right now. We must include the ingredient of AI and ML, and also even for the DL, talking about the deep learning. Next page. Apart from HPC switch from government to the enterprise, we also observe another phenomenon is talking about the HPC Cloud. It is not a new topic. Honestly, it's talking about for, I think, around 10 years. But at that time, it was talking about either be running on premises or on the public cloud. But right now, due to the emerging of the container technology, Kubernetes, something like that, customer is asking for multi-cloud. So combine the on-premise one and also for the public one to become the multi-cloud. And the use case I just now mentioned about is, we also include now for the data analytics. And data analytics talking about AI and ML is usually include containers, DevOps, microservices, this kind of the technologies and terms. Next page. So what Red Hat can help? I think start from this one. As you can see that, even though I just mentioned at the very beginning, quite a lot of the HPC deployment right now is using open source. But when you take a look at the top 500, okay, which is the list published twice per year, this is the latest one, okay, in just released a couple of months ago. You can see for the top 3 of the supercomputer, talking about the Japan Fugaku IBM Summit and also the IBM Sierra, they are all running well, or we call it the Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And from the top 10, you can see 4 out of 10, they are running on HPC, running on our operating system. The reason behind, I think, is quite simple, is that talking about this large scale of supercomputers is not just asking for performance, but also for stability and also for scalability. That's the reason that we can help in here. Perhaps I can take a closer look for the top one, which is about the Fugaku. It is running on our Red Hat Enterprise Linux version 8 with Portman support. Portman, maybe you heard about this before or not. I will share a little bit more regarding what Portman is. But in the simplest term, that's what it's trying to do is we can provide the container management, container running, and container building down to the operating system level. So just I mentioned about AI and HPC convergence, so you can see almost every HPC deployment right now requires the support of container. So that's the reason for the Fugaku. And Fugaku is also the first one with the highest score. They are using the ARM processor. So you can see it's talking about 415 petaflops using close to or more than 7 million of cores. But due to the nature of the ARM processor, you can see it's a high density. So for example, it's a Fujitsu 1 talking about a single chassis. This can accommodate 48 nodes. So for a single rack, it can provide 384 nodes. So to provide a total theoretical of 415 petaflops, you just need 3,168, if I remember correctly. So it is a very hyper-converged one. Next page. So apart from top 500 reference case, I can see is that it's not talking about Red Hat can do everything. Instead, due to we are contribute to the community, we are the largest, the contributor in the open source community. We combine with our ecosystem, with our partner, no matter it's global ISV or local partner, we can deliver the value to the customer, no matter from traditional or legacy HPC to HPDA and AI-enabled HPC. So we can see some of our global partner names like, for example, NVIDIA, IBM, and also Mellanox, and also some of the open source software stack like TensorFlow, Jupyter Hub, okay. And we also have a close partner right now in Taiwan. They have also an office here in Hong Kong, which is the SYSTEX, okay, or we call it the GARAOTUS. They have their HPC running and supporting the AI environment and can also provide HPC Cloud. This is something that we try to make it happen in a holistically that deliver the emerging or we call it the next generation of HPC platform. Next page. When talking about the AI, here I like to share more regarding the pain point and how we can help from Red Hat's perspective. Because we know that most of the customer, they have the skill set, they try to use the open source tools, no matter for the modules, library, or even down to operating system. They try to use the DIY or BYO approach to build, their own software or solution stack. So the right side you can see is a quite typical example is talking about one of the components that you should see. Okay, for example, you should have a data lag, you may have a in-memory data grip, and then you have the in-memory engine, the streaming processing, and also need to have the deep learning framework, data pipeline, some sort of that. So lots of them, open source components are included here. So customers actually need quite a lot of effort and also of time in order to build their own solution stack. I'm not challenging whether they have that kind of capability, but I have real concern of how they're going to operate from day two. Especially, we all know that open source, they have a very short, long cycle. They frequently have a new version. In so many components putting together, whenever there's some kind of changes, upgrade, how you can make sure the stability, compatibility, and also the overall performance. So this is the reason why we have a project from Red Hat called the Open Data Hub project. What we are trying to do is we help not just for the data scientists, but also for the business analysts and also for the data engineer to save their burden by providing the blueprints to help them to pick the certified, validated components from the market, and then combine it with our software stack to become a validated, the overall solution stack. So you can just based on like the puzzle, I already give you the final one, and then you just combine them, glue them together, and you can stay your time on the business initiative and also for your business transformation. Next page. So here I can give you a quick overview in terms of the component. Let's say for a HPC environment, if we need to have the HPC Cloud included, or even we need to run the AI workload. So very familiar, okay, the logical diagram, including HPC management, including the cloud, including the legacy compute node, and also for the storage node. So we can see every almost areas, okay, we can have our corresponding products and solution to map with. And say again, right here, we can see our partner, GARAOTUS, they play a very crucial role here in the HPC environment for the HPC cluster management. Not just for the traditional, the HPC, cluster provisioning, monitoring, and also for the management, but also try to extend it to provide more value added, combining with our solution stack. So for the rest of the presentation, I'm trying to give you more information regarding for the each part, how Red Hat can help, to save the customer valuable time. Next page. In here, I think start from the right beginning is that I know that most of the customer, when they hear about Red Hat, is talking about, actually it's a enterprise or commercial software render. They contribute lots to the community, but they are chargeable. But I can use the same tool from the upstream, okay, which is free. I think the story is partly true is that because most of the customer, they only can name their, okay, the value of the Red Hat subscription, when they subscribe our software, they can get the support. But I think this is the power of the full picture. Red Hat subscription can provide our enterprise open source software and help the customer to build the applications, integrate their IT, and manage their environment. Customer can also try to, we can help them to allocate their needs back to the open community and also the open projects, so they can influence their own innovation. And of course, we have our own dedicated product security team that help the customer to try to assess and address the risk. And we have a longer supported life cycle. For example, some of the emerging technology like Kubernetes, each quarter they have a new release. How can you make sure that right now I install, for example, 1.8, and the new version come out, let's say for 1.9, how can I ensure that if I need to acquire support, okay, I won't lag behind? Because our own extended long support, okay, can help the customer ensure that they can have a smooth, okay, migration schedule based on their own customer requirement. But at the same time, they can acquire, before they upgrade to the new version, they can still acquire security patches and upgrade. And don't forget, we have our ecosystem. We have over thousands of partners from products and services. So all together, we can help the customer to leverage our own Red Hat technology to perform their own innovation. If there's any issue, of course, we can have the support, not just talking about phone and email, but also with the security and also the update I just mentioned about. So this is the overall value for Red Hat subscription. Next page. So when just talking about the operating system, well, I understand that, right, for HPC may have our own requirement. Maybe we need MPI support. We need to have a scientific computing optimizer. So instead of using the traditional one, we derive two different versions for compute node and also for the management node. For example, for the HPC head node or management node, you can use traditional to RHEL edition. But for compute node, we are asking for performance. We are asking for support for MPI and also for scientific computing. So we have a special repository targeted for them, but at the same time, it's very cost effective. It's talking about less than $100 per compute node. So I think this can bring our customer tremendous value, not just for the cost saving, but also for we providing some kind of the tailor-made software module to them to run their workload. Next page. When we try to build their own cluster, traditional way, either leveraging the manpower, DIY approach, or using the script, or using some of the third-party tools, it depends. But it's still very menu-driven. We have our own Ansible. Right now, we already upgrade to our automation platform. What I mean for the automation platform is that we are not just doing automation, but also doing automation management. We are not just doing the configuration, we are also doing the configuration management. So start from the very beginning is that we can automate and configure not just for the infrastructure, talking about the compute storage and network, but also for the operation, security, and also for business use and even for developer usage. So automation platform actually is a hosted service, so the customer can go to our, the cloud platform, talking about cloud.redhat.com, and then acquire the services. For example, we publish the service catalog, okay, for different partners, our partners, starting maybe from application ISV or from the hardware, from storage, from server, or even from network. They can simply acquire the service catalog to use. But at the same time, we understand that this is talking about the whole strategy for the automation. So it's not just a script, simple script to automate a simple task. So we need a holistic way, we need a strategy to manage it. So that's the reason we have the automation hub under the automation platform. It can be either a SaaS offering or an on-premise offering. Okay, so maybe I can switch to the next page to illustrate the situation. So I have the automation hub. It combines different Ansible content, maybe from the community talking about the Galaxy. Maybe I can from the subscriber user. Okay, they have some kind of the private content. They made their own blueprints, or they develop their own playbooks. Combined with our automation hub from our cloud, which is certified and validated. Okay, and then using this private automation hub, the administrator can control which team or which department can use which kind of playbook, which is under our endorsement or certification. And then through the Ansible Tower as the engine, should be at the GUI, it provides the monitoring dashboard, role-based access control, and then scheduler. And then let the Ansible engine to execute. And the right hand side, you can see all these use cases talking about automation for different things. So this is the value that in terms of the HPC deployment, we can use the same methodology, building from the head node, from the master node, and then to the compute node. And then we can, if required, we can reposition, okay, the whole cluster for the different purposes. Next page. So right here, you can see this is some of the example of our partners published the catalog in our website. Okay, the right hand side, you can see from the hardware vendor, from maybe from load balancer, from storage, or even from security. For the left hand corner, you can see it is some kind of the DevOps development tools. Maybe for the middleware, you can see the JBoss, EAP. You can see our application server, or even some of the load balancer tools that you can directly acquire. So from infrastructure perspective or from development perspective, you can see you can leverage our rich content. Okay, and then based on your own requirement, you can customize your own repository. Next page. So here I show you an example. I think it's quite simple one, even though there seems quite a lot of writings here in this slide. Traditional one, you can see we have the customer management server, we have compute nodes, we have the IO nodes, or call it the storage node. And then we have the management, okay, management over here. Right now is using the BMC, the baseball management controller. We also have the deployment node, okay, to provision all the different roles in here. So using Ansible, you can see it quite easily that instead of using your own script, we can based on the playbook, based on the service catalog, based on the governance, based on the role-based access control, based on the GUI, based on the scheduler we provided, we can have a comprehensive and holistic way to manage the whole environment. Next page. When talking about AI, we need to talk about the containers. According to 451 research, you can see here 94% of the survey, the candidate, they respond that up to this moment or next year, they were adopting container technology. But container technology, we know that from a development perspective or from an enterprise perspective, are a little bit different when comparing with the use case of HPC. When HPC, we are trying to do AI, we understand that, for example, from the NGC, from the NVIDIA GPU cloud, most likely we download the container for the sake of AI ML purposes. But we understand that there are lots of the changes, right? Because most likely they are based on open source. Even though we have Ansible, we can re-provision the whole environment easily, but we try to avoid this kind of this whole total rebuild. This is the beauty of the containers that we can help, that we can combine all the modules differently to make it just a library or a simple module, and the package under in a container. So we can leverage the beauty of container, which is talking about the portability and isolation. So no matter end user or customers, they have a own requirement to see a very common request. For example, oh, I have a new software release or new module release that I want to test whether it can run with better performance or with better stability. So usually they ask the HPC admin whether you can provision an environment for me, for example, for 2 weeks testing, and then it can be decommissioned for other purposes. By using containers, it can save the variable time of the HPC admin a lot. Next page. I think most of you know that actually Docker was acquired by Mirantis, so they are not totally, community driven anymore. And the final version we know that as shown in this slide is talking about 1.13. So customers are asking for what is the next step or next generation of containers. So from Red Hat, actually, we are as one of the world's leader of the contributor of the open source. Right now, we have different projects. In this slide, you can see Portman, Scopio, and also for the builder. We try to decouple the function of the Docker into 3 different parts. Talking about Portman is the port manager. It can help to build, manage, and run the containers. When we try to build the container, we have the builder. The difference between the building methodology in builder and Portman is that for Portman is they can also using the Docker files, for example. Okay, so to build your own container. Most likely usually leverage the VFS storage driver, but usually it's not very so-called this expensive. And also in terms of performance, it may not be the best one. So that's the reason, it's just for the ease of use. So we included this feature in the Portman. But when in a holistic way, more comprehensive way, we're trying to build the containers, we'll use the builder. It is 100% Docker files, command line compatible, but at the same time, you can also leverage their own language provider in builder, and then include, for example, like the external script, and then to enhance the flexibility for the container building process. For the container management, we have the Scopio. For example, we can push, we can pull the container images, and we also have the ability, for example, like that, I don't need to download the whole container. I just need to download the metadata, but I can do some manipulation. For example, I can check the Docker version. I can check the hash code, and then I can determine the next action item. Next page. So here I can show you a little bit more regarding what I try to describe, right? In the simplest term, I can just simply add an alias talking about Docker equivalent to Portman, because this is Portman is Docker CLI equivalent. Okay, almost like this kind of design philosophy. So on top of the repository, okay, we can use Portman to build, to run and manage our own container, and then I can leverage the run C, which is our runtime engine, to create the namespaces and the corresponding kernel codes. Okay, so it is a OCI compliant. The critical thing is that, so whether you have your existing Docker or we have another Docker runtime, But at least our Docker images, at least if it is OCI compliant, it should be can be run on in our Portman. Next page. Sorry about that. I need to go back to the previous page because I forgot to mention one of the very key points here is talking about. We also try to leverage Portman to try to cope with the two problems that I think most of the people right now suffering in Docker is talking about the require of the root access to run the daemon, which is number one. And the second one, I need to run the daemon. Okay, for example, I need to trigger using the Docker CLI, and then the Docker CLI will work with the Docker engine, and then the Docker engine will ask the OCI container runtime to create the container. So this great problem is that the newly container, the processes, is not the child process of the Docker CLI, but instead is under the Docker engine. But Portman actually is a daemon nest and also root nest. So we don't have this kind of challenges. We can easily manipulate the container. For example, I can easily identify the owner of the container, and then also I can easily control the container, for example, through C group. Next page. Okay, container most likely run on cloud, so that's the reason we have Openstack. In here, I can share with you some of the information from the Stack HPC. You can see here, you can have a snapshot is that this one is talking about cluster on demand. Under the top 500, we have two. I'm talking about there are two submitted case. They are using the Openstack as a cluster on demand use cases. So this is the reason because Openstack, you know, that is web scale. Is talking about a very elastic. It can be used to run on HPC. So we can use it no matter fully module of Ironic or Magnum. We can run bare metal and also for Kubernetes. And then we can use it to provision HPC cluster, most likely for the end user for or some kind of the development of testing. And then I can easily recommission or reprovision the whole environment under the virtual machines and also with Docker support. Next page. So Openstack, I think most of the people know that we are the one of the key contributor. No matter from all the versions shown in the chart in the left-hand side, or the U version, right now you can see in the right-hand side, we are the major contributor. And even when combined with the IBM, for example, we have 27% of the overall Openstack contribution. And also we have a over 46% of the contribution for the U version. Next page. Okay, here I said because when we need to run HPC bare metal combined with the containers, and then we have the Openstack as the cluster on demand cloud. Very likely we also need the Kubernetes as a container orchestrator. So Openshift is here play a crucial role. Today, I'm not going to share the details regarding for the Openshift, but one thing I would like to share with you is that for the Openshift, we can have not just talking about 100% of Kubernetes, because there are probably a lot of customers asking for whether Openshift is equivalent to Openshift. This is 100% okay, the same as Kubernetes, but it is enterprise grade and also production ready. What I mentioned here is that the keyword is that we are only Kubernetes here is not enough, but we also need to provide the underlying operating system, for example, like Linux. We also need to provide networking, storage, ingress, and also for registry, monitoring, and also logging. This is talking about the infrastructure side. And from the application, we also need to provide the, let's say for the runtime, for the single sign-on, talking about the SSO, the messaging, and also for the integration services too, API management. Okay, and also have the ecosystem talking about the ISV integration, no matter off the shelf or from the open source from the community. And then combine it with the developer tools. This is the whole ecosystem that I'm going to share with you. It's talking about why Openshift is much more than a open source Kubernetes. Next click, I can see some of the how we are going to leverage Openshift for different roles and different purposes. Okay, next page. The last component I will share with you is that we have containers. So that's the reason we need to manage it. So we have Cray, we have Red Hat Cray. Cray actually have two offerings. The first one is talking about the Cray IO, which is our SaaS offering. So you can base on your subscription model to depends on how many private repository that you can have. And maybe you have different, we call it the team-based permissions for team collaboration. In this chart, you can see, okay, I forgot to mention about actually Cray is about our enterprise grade. This is a distributed, highly available container registry. Here, I'll try to share with you the comparison table regarding the Red Hat Cray.0 version, which is a SaaS offering, with our enterprise offering, which is the on-premise offering, which is the Red Hat Cray. As you can see, it says hosted and on-prem. Another major difference talking about, let's say for the geo-replication and also for the multiple authentication provider. And also we have Prometheus support providing for your metrics. And for the on-prem one, here I want to share with you is that it is the one that we can provide you the extra value. It's talking about you can control your own private registry to see, for example, I have the own application, and then whenever I try to commit the code, I can auto build and then provide the storage and also the security scan. And for the on-prem version, actually we enhance it to provide the tool set, which is talking about the Clear, to improve the CVE, we call it common vulnerability and exposure, this kind of scanning. So we provide choices to our own customer. Next page. And here I'd like to wrap up is that for the overall, I share lots of the areas that Red Hat combined with a partner, combined with an ecosystem, we can help the customer to build no matter from their own traditional HPC and then extend to HPDN and also for the AI offering. I hope that the overall presentation can help you to understand Red Hat is just not another option for your HPC journey, but we are a very close and key partner to help you to success in the open source community. Much another option for you to make sure it is a certified enterprise ready. Thank you.